Hi everyone. As you know, so the videos that I have is the combination of the videos I made myself throughout this year and a half that I lived in Israel, and soon I will be going to film a lot more. And also a lot of photographs from open sources, some infographics, some diagrams, some illustrations from the open sources. Mainly, I rely on the three big institutions: the City of David, the Medyan Institute with regards to this Judaism-related topics and Jewish history-related topics, and I also use a lot of materials from Holy Land site, which is a big uh, Christian organization. They arrange all sorts of tours and informations and documentaries. So that's what I rely on. So reliable sources, to put it mildly. So where are we now? We are here in the area of the Western Wall. And we have already walked here in the Davidson Center. We explored the southern wall with the entrances for pilgrimage, exactly that entrance that what Jesus must have taken himself. And this is the western wall. Behind this section, this is the Muslim quarter, and you can see how dense the construction is there. And this is the part of the Jewish quarter over here, which is the smallest of the four. But again, the system of the quarters of the old city is well, it has nothing to do with the way it looked back in the times of Jesus, let alone times before that. This is the heritage of the 19th century, Ottoman times. We explored a little bit of the Western Wall Plaza, but I'm not sure for those of you who have been to Jerusalem, well, this must be um, it shouldn't be new to you, but in general, there is more than just this Western Wall Plaza where anyone can at least touch the stones of the walls of the second temple. There is so-called a small Western Wall. And it can be accessed through the Muslim quarter, the small Western Wall, and so the big one is the Praying Plaza, right? That's the one we visited yesterday, a week ago. But the small Western Wall is in the Muslim quarter, just a little section of it which you can see. The issue is that non-Muslims have restrictions in entering the Temple Mount. Well, you can enter it only through one gate, through one entrance, and there are on certain days of the week, at certain hours of the day, and there are multiple restrictions applied to that. You don't have to pay for it, no, but you just need to just be aware of certain things when you are entering the Temple Mount. Whereas the quarters themselves are free for everyone to enter. There are only several areas that will be I would say that non-Muslims will be restricted. This will be the areas of the entrances to the Temple Mount, since all the other entrances are only for Muslims. And so we are now walking through the Muslim quarter, and we are going to approach soon the kind of a checkpoint, but that checkpoint is exactly making sure that non-Muslims do not violate the access routes, the access rules for non-Muslims. So that's why there is security there. I tend not to film security. So the security is over there because this is the exit and entrance. This is the only, by the way, exit for non-Muslims over here, but it's also entrance for Muslims from here. So this is the checkpoint. I'm not filming. So this is the Temple Mount itself, but I'm not allowed to enter through these gates. So, but if you turn to the left, you will see this small Wailing Wall. And I would like to speak a little bit about this term Wailing Wall. I'm not sure whether it's common knowledge, but I'm a linguist and it's important for me. The words are important for me. At times, maybe too important. I don't want to get too nerdy, but a Wailing Wall is quite a derogatory term. Yeah, obviously, it is a place for mourning for the temple, but this term, it's important to understand when this term originated. It originated in the 19th century, and it was made up by Christian pilgrims. Christian pilgrims who started coming here in great volumes in mid 19th century when the Ottomans allowed the pilgrimage to the Holy Land for Christians and for Jews. And obviously, before that, they had always lived Jews in Jerusalem and outside of Jerusalem, and Christians, and there were Christian Arabs as well. So that's not the story. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Wailing Wall. So when the pilgrims came and when they saw a lot of Jews crying by the wall, they just called it the Wailing Wall because people were weeping. And it's important to understand that for a long time, for many centuries, it was very difficult to access for those Jews who were not living in the Ottoman Empire. It was quite difficult to access, and it was also difficult to travel from all over to Jerusalem. That was very difficult. And obviously, people had been, for many people, it must have been for the first time in their life when they came this close to where the temple used to be. Obviously, people were wailing, people were mourning the destruction. So that's why that term it came from Christians as a bit of a mockery, or maybe not a bit. So, but anyway, so the Jews would never really call the Wailing Wall the Wailing Wall. They would call the Western Wall the Kotel Amarav, so which means the Western Wall, and that's the term also I prefer to use. But since it's written here, I kind of have to comment on that, the Wailing Wall. And yeah, so there is a tiny section in the residential quarter, the living quarter of the Muslim quarter. There you go. So this is the wall, and um, it's it's not a secret, so to speak, but it's just because the Western Wall Plaza is so attractive for travelers, for tourists. It's just not that, I would say, this is just not that much popular. But if you're looking for peace and quiet, well, the praying plaza works 24/7. But there's so many people there, I would say, round the clock all the time. But here it's a lot more peaceful, and I have come here also multiple times. However, this might be a little bit of a kind of a not low. There is no rating of the Kotel, but if you compare the two sides, this would probably have been given a lower rating because the stones here are from a later period, not from the times of Herod the Great, who was the great who was the great rebuilder, reconstructor, not reinventor, but the one who rebuilt, revamped the Temple Mount and the Second Temple, because we know that his stones. We will be talking even more, obviously, a lot more about it. So his stones had this very strict rectangular frame, the edges. So these are the stones from the later periods. We know that all the time with different periods of time, but Jerusalem change had so many times so that with the stones, with the walls of the Temple Mount would be rebuilt multiple times. Crusaders, first Muslim period, Crusaders, second Muslim period, Ottomans. So yeah, that's why there's really a lot to talk about. I promise I will be doing a tour of the walls and the gates of the old city, and that's when we'll be able to talk more about it. But actually, you don't have to be a big expert and a historian to be able to tell that this stone must have come from that period, and this is definitely not later and not earlier than a certain period of time. So that's quite curious. And everywhere here in the Muslim quarter, and in general, in every quarter of Jerusalem, aside from the religious facilities for the three monotheistic religions, right? There are also people living. And over there are also apartments. And here used to live sister of one of my group mates who is a Palestinian. Majid lives in Eastern Jerusalem, and he has shared so many stories with me. Um, um, so his sister used to live here, just a little bit over there, and I think the second floor is just incredible. So Majid has always known about this place, and I only learned about it when I moved to Israel and started my studies as a tour guide. So let's see where we are finally. So we are, well, we are technically not here yet. We will be there shortly. So there you go. The praying plaza is here, and well, we just kind of quickly dropped by the small Wailing Wall over here, but we are back to the praying plaza, and you remember that was this building to the left, and it has even some arch construction. So we are entering the Western Wall tunnels there from the left. And we are here. Well, I can show you. Well, by the way, why not? I can easily go back and show you where we are. There you go. So this is from here. This is the entrance to the Western Wall Plaza, and that's the arches I'm talking about. You see, it's like the building is going underground, right? So there's a lot going on there, a lot. Okay. So yeah, that's it. So imagine we skipped already the cash desk and everything, and we are inside. There are actually two routes you can take. They are different. They overlap a little bit, but largely they're different. The second route, which we're actually going to start with, opened like a year ago, a year and a half ago. And the other one was long for a long time. So, but it's not really about which route you take, it's about what you see. And I will be showing you everything. Because, and I'm not in a hurry, so I will be doing it, I would say, in my own stride. So, Mount Moriah, which is the Temple Mount, originally it was much smaller than the territory of the modern day Temple Mount. That's it shows. So this little hump is Mount Moriah, and what Herod did in the first century BCE, he extended it. Please also pay attention that the natural terrain, right, is uneven. It's mountain. So from here, the western wall is much shorter because of the bedrock, and that's also important. We will talk about it. And so somewhere here is the praying plaza, sort of. It's very hard to tell because obviously the layer is well, it's impossible to identify at the moment. Well, but we are somewhat around that area. So here it shows this is the level, the ground level at the moment. The original level was much lower, and you remember it. For those of you who watched the previous episodes on the Davidson Center, you saw how much lower the original level was. So the archaeologists were able to dig as much as to the bottom of it, to the street where Jesus walked, definitely 100%. And there will be more of that paved street as the tour goes. Probably not today, but we will see some more of that paved street that Jesus walked 300%. So, but that's the territory, and that's the level at which the praying plaza is nowadays. So I hope this kind of helps to understand where we are. And you remember those arch constructions, right? Those arches that kind of go into nowhere. They're like swallowed by the ground. So there, now we understand that there used to be a bridge, and that the building, right? So um uh the how shall I put it? So, and that arches were part of that bridge, and that bridge was built for, well, originally there was no bridge, but there was an aqueduct because the Temple Mount needed the aqueduct, and Herod the Great obviously had to think about the water supply for the Temple Mount, and this was the only water supply from the springs about a 20, 15 miles away from Jerusalem. So, but Romans were amazing at aqueduct construction anyway, so there was no problem with water supply. And it was also realized that it would be a lot easier to kind of combine the bridge and an aqueduct. And this is how this interesting construction was built. And it's all underground, right? It's all underground now. You don't see that. It's just the rendering of what later on would be found by archaeologists, the so-called Wilson's Arch. This is another image. There is a film that they show you in the tunnels, because without this film, you will just not be able to understand anything at all. So that's the aqueduct and the bridge that was built to ensure the access to the Temple Mount by pilgrims. But what you see here is a lot of fire. That's the fire that happened in year 70 AD when the temple was destroyed by the Romans as a reaction to the Jewish uprising in year 66. So what is actually here, so that's the praying plaza, and this is all the construction. And over here also there are buildings. Everything is underground. That's important to understand. And there have never been any excavations on the Temple Mount. So the only opportunity to dig, to understand what's below and to understand, to see if there's anything left from the temple, from the temples, from the second and the first temple, is to dig around the Temple Mount. And I love this because it shows you what it is nowadays. And by the way, this is the Mughrabi Gate, the only access point for non-Muslims to the Temple Mount. There you go. And this is the access to the Western Wall tunnels. And these are interesting arch construction that I'm talking about. So, and this is imaginary. It's just drawn here to understand what we are talking about, what interesting aqueduct and access we are talking about. Right now, there's nothing on the surface, just buildings. That's it. And obviously, that's the rendering of what it looked like at times of Herod. So there you go. There would be a groove running all along the length of the bridge. And yeah, so there you go. This is the bridge, the access to the Temple Mount, and underneath, shops. There you go. That's the level. That's the paved street. That's exactly the street that we now have access to through the Davidson Center. For those who haven't seen the previous tours, the easiest way to access them is to become my supporter. So I only keep the recordings for 1 week in open access for as many of you as possible to catch up on what you miss. But after that, I provide access for my supporters, which is a little bit of an extra monthly payment. And you have access to about 700 videos. So there are a bunch of videos of this area, of Jerusalem, of the Holy Land. And the Davidson Center videos are also there. And so there would be shops here because it was basically the Wall Street of Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. So not much really has changed. So who discovered that? Well, the British, Sir Charles Wilson, who was the engineer, British engineer. He, together with several more engineers and militaries, were sent by Queen Victoria to explore the Holy Land, obviously to find, it was done first of all, let's say, the Christian interests, but not only. Well, Queen Victoria basically wanted to find the treasures of the temple, of the Second Temple, because they were lost. You know, the temple was looted, and it's still a mystery where the spoils of war are. But most scholars, and me, it's not like I'm a scholar, but I also agree that with those spoils of war, when Jews were also taken captive and taken as slaves to Rome, exactly with those money, the Colosseum was built. Yeah, but that's a different story. Again, I'm not going into this. So yeah, so Charles Warren was conducting sort of analysis, kind of survey, right? Just on the surface, not really digging anywhere, but kind of a very just a very superficial survey. And that's when he saw those interesting arches, and he thought they could be part of something more than just something from the Crusader times. And that's when they started digging, and that's what they discovered. This one, by the way, is taken from Wikipedia, so there's quite a lot written about Wilson himself and his excavations. Well, but obviously at that time it was impossible to dig a lot. Impossible. And that's I would say, well, this is just the assumption of how deep this could have been. They managed to go underground, and they managed to find a lot of walls that had they were just filled up. They were just filled up with dirt, and so they just had to take out the massive amounts of dirt, and also there were some hollows too. And they found a lot of niches, a lot of spaces with a plaster on the walls, which indicates that these uh, areas were used as cisterns. Obviously, at much later period, and much later, no, after the Second Temple, probably the Crusader times, Muslim period, Second Muslim period. There you go. So this is obviously this is the modern arches, but inside there are the arches that I'm talking about. You can't access them because this is the men's section of the praying plaza, and the praying plaza is considered as a gigantic open air synagogue. So I, as a woman, cannot enter that side. But even these arches are indicative. Even this, you can see them, but there is more if you go inside that covered area. That area is, well, it's really handy when it rains, but you still want to pray. You still want to be by the kotel. That's where you would go. And the big stones I'm talking about, it's, well, there they are, the Herod stone, the Herodian stones. They are rectangular. Well, they're not even, well, you can see bits of them here. But I showed it on the previous episode, so I'm not going into this now. And in that Wilson's Arch that had been discovered finally, now there is a Wilson's Arch synagogue. There are several synagogues in the Western Wall tunnels, kind of two and a half, so to speak. Where are we? So that bridge was named Great Causeway, and the arch was named Wilson's Arch because he was the first one to discover it. That was it. So, and Wilson's Arch was part of the Giant Causeway. Oh, Great Causeway, sorry, not the giant, but the Great Causeway. The Great Causeway term was given by our friend, Sir Charles Warren, the one who discovered the shaft in the Hezekiah Tunnel. That Hezekiah Tunnel is the part of the, well, it's what I showed you in the City of David. That's part of the City of David tunnel system. Again, if you missed it, so the recordings are available. I wish I could provide more connections. I wish I could provide more kind of flashbacks and references for the previous tours, but if I do that, we will never be able to move on with the tour. So I will just quickly, sometimes we'll drop you some hints and provide just very few parallels with the past tours. Sorry for that, but I try to include also as much details and photos and references as possible as the tour goes. And that's another rendering of this Great Causeway. There you go. So that's the Great Causeway entrance to the Temple Mount. And you can see here we are very, very close to the temple, like 60 meters away from the temple, from somewhere here, which matters a lot. And there's also another interesting entrance over there. What is that? And this here, since this is very close to the temple, this is considered to have been probably one of the VIP entrances. Definitely not the most massive entrance, because the most massive entrance will be for the southern wall. That's exactly the itinerary that Jesus had taken, well, must have taken at least. Let's put it like that. Let's be cautious. And this was just another one. Most probably for, I would say, less common people. most probably. Again, this is just the rendering, and just for our information, that's where we are. And that's well, the old city, so to speak. Uh, yeah, that's where we are. That's the Praying Plaza, easy to identify. That's the entrance to the Western Wall tunnels. That's over there is the entrance to the roofed area of the Praying Plaza men's section. The women's section is much smaller. That's over there. And here we have quite an interesting rendering of what was going on within this bridge, because there were a lot of interesting things. Have a look. There are some buffs. What are they? It's an aqueduct, so there definitely were different um, drainage canals and different water containers, because in Jerusalem, water has always been extremely important, one of the biggest assets, and every drop of water counted. So there will be also a lot of cisterns, and the well uh, the every space was used also as the water collector, just to collect the rainwater too. So here we see also some interesting things. Those are, well, we will see some mikvaot for sure, which is the baths for purification, the Jewish religious baths for purification, spiritual purification. We'll talk about that. And well, this is just kind of what we can see nowadays, of what is left, and we can assume how much we can see and the different itineraries we take. Doesn't really mean much at the moment, but after we have done the tour, I think it's going to be a little bit easier to understand. So what we're going to see today, by the way, hopefully we have enough time. We will definitely see this section. We will walk here. We will go kind of this way with you and find ourselves here. And we'll be looking at that area as well. We'll be here too. As I said, two itineraries. It looks very complicated at the moment, but it's not that complicated, trust me. But let's explore these interesting kind of basins, hollowings. What is that? So you saw the area in that illustration, right? Like some basins filled with water. And I told you that some of them are cisterns, just to store the drain, the rainwater and the underground waters, but also they are mikvaot. A mikveh is well, for my non-Jewish audience and my Jewish audience, please bear with me. So these are the baths for spiritual purification. There should normally, how do we identify? There should be steps. There should be actually two kind of it's either two different steps, way in and way out, because on your way in you are impure, and on your way out you are pure, and you cannot touch the impure ones because impurity is contagious. And so that's why there should be kind of a distinction. Here we don't see the second set of steps, because there's just dirt there, but it's there, but it's just dirt. Not everything has been dug up. There's still a lot of digging to be done, and I'm pretty sure that there are digging are done, but probably not at the moment because it's Shavuot, so there shouldn't be any excavations carried out on Shavuot. But in general, largely there are excavations going on almost 24/7. And now we are in a where are we? It's interesting. There is a wall. The wall has some sort of, it's kind of a pilaster, right? Kind of a half a column, but it's not even half a column. It's just kind of a little bit of imitation of a pilaster. And it even has the kind of some sort of capitelli like decorations on top. And also we have this projection of water flowing down. What is that? Well, this area only became accessible about a year and a half ago or so. And these are the showers. You're looking at the spa, and that's the wall, the showers for for I would say very well off pilgrims to the Temple Mount. Or it also, knowing the period, it could have been also used by Romans easily as well. So let me explain you. This is the Great Causeway. It's also the aqueduct, right? So the drainage channels, different pipes, that's where the water would be accumulated, and these are the showers, and this is the pool, and that's how one could walk all the way, and then it wasn't necessarily for spiritual purification, because here you could also access and walk down the oh my goodness, the Wall Street, the paved street. So that's the street from the times of Jesus, but from the times of Herod, and then Jesus. So they even overlapped a little bit. So that's more or less same timing. And the showers. So the idea was that, well, the rich people, or at least some well-off pilgrims, first of all had to shower before uh, purifying themselves, because mikvah is not about the physical cleansing, but only the spiritual one. And after that, they could enjoy themselves. And after that, they could go to the mikveh, and then to the temple. Or again, it could have been used, or the showers could have been used by anyone. And after that, we find ourselves again. We're back in the Great Causeway, in that building. Well, and here we see. So it's not dug up completely yet, but you can see the two sets of steps, right, from both sides. One for the yet the impure ones, and this is for the pure ones, or other way around. I'm not sure yet. And you can see that there is another level. There's a deeper level. And you can find also many more mikvaot. There's more than two mikvaot. There are a set of them, and there is still water there. There's still water there, and you can see this would be also for the water from the aqueduct. That's where the water will be flowing. It's very important for mikveh to not have it should be not the standing water. It should be the free flowing water. It could be from rain, could be from a water stream. So that's why there would be a lot of these holes and canals through which water could be accessing the mikveh. And we go on, and look, you can see the stones. They are quite interesting. So we are actually approaching the wall. You see, these stones are small ones, but these are bigger ones. So we are approaching the western wall, the section of the western wall, which is so this is the shower building over there. So there behind this wall, there are showers. That's where it is. And this is the western wall. You see the stones, and these are the stones from the Herod times. These are the Herodian stones. So the Great Hall is kind of here, the Great Causeway, the showers, and that's where we are. Um, mm, so this is hard to imagine, but below us is the Muslim quarter. Shortly after that, so if you move a little bit over there, so there will be the area of the western wall that's on the surface, the one that we visited in the beginning. But this is the western wall underground, and as you can see, there is even another minus second floor. Look at that. And that is that is the wall, and that's where the Wilson's Arch was. That was one of the arches. Imagine all that. So what's going on here? What are we looking at? This is complicated. I will try to be as concise as possible. So what we have here is an interesting construction that was discovered from the 2nd century Common Era, which is, well, the times when in 132 Common Era Bar Kokhba revolt, the last Jewish revolt, started. But those who survived the destruction of the temple and quite a big fire, which we saw also a little bit of on the from the film. And well, so the revolt was a well in the beginning they were winning, but then they lost. And in 135, Romans just said that does it and destroyed the entire city. They razed the city. They tried to destroy. They tried to destroy even the walls of the Temple Mount, so what was left of it. And they well the first stones that we are going to see here are from the fire of the temple in the year 70 AD, and also there will be the ways through the traces of destruction from the second century Common Era. That is about 50 years, a little bit over 50 years after the temple was destroyed, so 135. And then it would be very difficult. It would be very difficult to push the stones because they were very heavy. Herod was a great builder, and his masons were incredible. They were heavy. Some stones are, I will show you, some stones are absolutely enormous. They're bigger than the big bus. And all the stones were very heavy. So eventually, they managed to push down some of the stones first when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, and then more when Jerusalem was destroyed. But after the big fires, Jerusalem was rebuilt into a pagan city, Aelia Capitolina. That's what I'm talking about. So you see how big these stones are. And also you see there's almost not a crack between the stones. This is how nicely attached they are to one another. Well, there's no gap between them. Very tiny gap. It's not even always possible to put the kvitilach, this real notes in between the stones. So it's quite challenging. And there you well we will see more. We will explore more. But now let's go back and see what we have in here. And then when the city was destroyed and the new one was built, the pagan one, obviously the idea was to humiliate Jews, and that's why the Iulia Capitolina emerged. So the pagan city on what used to be uh, the the very important Jewish side, the most important Jewish side. So what's next? Well, obviously they had to build pagan temples on the Temple Mount. They had to do something well with well as much as possible of sins and entertainment present around there. And they built a cinema. Well, not cinema. When I say the theater, not yet the cinema, but the predecessor, the theater. And the problem was the idea was to erase any memory of Jews. So they covered everything up so just nothing would be seen on the surface. And on top of it, from the Herodian stones from the western wall that they had been able prior to that push down from the top, they built their theater. So technically speaking, and for sure, not just technically, and for sure, underneath this Roman time theater, there is the Second Temple period, artifacts, items, whatnot. And the First Temple period archaeology is even lower. Obviously, they haven't started the digging yet, and it's going to be quite tricky because with archaeology, that's unfortunately how it goes. You need to you need to sacrifice the more recent layers in order to get to the older layers. So I don't know what they're going to do. That's a well, it's another challenge that they're going to say. Just a second. And well, I will keep you updated once there's well, any information that comes up. And these columns are modern. They are here to support the entire area, to secure the entire area, because there's the entire city on top. That's it. It's taken them quite a long time to arrange everything. So there is no access to that area of the theater. So let's finally see the faces of those who were behind the destruction. So first of all, the faces behind the destruction of the temple. It was the well. It's still a question whether Vespasian did order to Titus, the head of the army, who also happened to be his son, to destroy it. They claim that the fire of the temple was accident, the kind of a just accidental conflagration. We don't know. There's no way of knowing anyway. But so Vespasian was the Roman emperor, was the emperor at that time, and his son Titus was the head of the legions that were in charge of the destruction. And then Titus became an emperor himself. And then so he uh, there is a Titus Arch in Rome. That's where basically this entire destruction of the Second Temple and the evidence to looting of the temple is there. The Titus Arch, it's there in Rome. And later on in 130, so in 135, Jerusalem was destroyed. It was done during times of Emperor Hadrian. So we have there now we see the faces kind of uh, from Wikipedia. So that's only the well the just the sculptures from the museums that we have. That's it. And so you go around and then you're going back. You just see the theater. You see the stones, right? You can even see these edges here, the rectangular frames that the Herodian stones are so famous for. So it was just a cover up. You cover up everything. You just don't want anything to remind Hadrian of the times of Jews, and that was it. Now we are back in the proper Western Wall tunnels, and here it's within the Great Causeway. There is another synagogue here. That's well a very big synagogue. I was the Yitzhak Tshuva synagogue that was built and named after a donor. And this is the Aron HaKodesh, right? This is the most important area of the synagogue, and that's where the Torah scrolls are kept. And this is all the synagogue should be facing Jerusalem, and if it's in Jerusalem, it should be facing the temple. And this is this is one of the closest, not the closest, but really one of the closest places. One of the synagogues that is the closest to the temple itself, because this is the Western Wall. That's it. Very easy. Very easy. And look, this is the same level that the theater is approximately. And there you go. Look at that. Huh? What is it? That's the stone. Imagine that's the stone. Look at these stones and see that stone. That's Herod and his genius as a builder, so to speak. There you go. Now we are downstairs, and we can see this absolutely gigantic Herodian stone. Thanks to Holy Land website, yeah, there you go. The large stone is here. Well, we can understand how huge it is. So there you go. One stone, one single piece. How did they cut it? How did they bring it? We don't know. We have the idea of how smaller stones would be brought, and I did share it on one of the tours. They used cattle for it. They used wheels that they would put on the stones, and they would be rolling them and pulling them with their with the oxen. But this, no idea. I mean, I'm sorry. How? How? 600 tons, the weight of two jets, 10 tanks. I don't know. No idea, honestly. But that's impressive. That's impressive. I think I've taken like gazillion of selfies next to the stone, but all these selfies, you just, there's no way of telling where I am. Just somewhere underground. But I mean, we're still walking towards the end of the stone. Still, still. So that end is over there, right is over there. There you go. Why are these hollowings here? As you can see, there was definitely some construction going on there. And they were walls of the buildings. That was it. That's the explanation. And this was the fitting. So this would be, this is quite, I would say, Jerusalem stone is quite soft. So it wasn't a big problem to cut out the holes and to put there some beams to which they could attach other walls and build other buildings next to it. So they just used this. They couldn't do anything with the stones. They're here forever, forever. And now we need to go along this western wall, and below, underneath, above us is the Muslim quarter, where people live. People have been living there for a long time. Then there's no digging there, but every once in a while you will be passing by to the right side where there will be some hollows. Actually, there are gates. Remember, I showed you that next to the Great Causeway, there was also another entrance, and this is the gates that were discovered by Warren. And well, that's why they're named after Charles Warren. That's it. Wilson's Arch and Warren's Gate. And this uh, could have been, well, this must have been a gate for the priests, maybe, because it's very close to where the temple used to be, and it doesn't look very big, and it's most probably was used by the priest by the priestly family. So this is the, well, here you can see the original temple location, the Warren's Gate. You can see how close the Warren's Gate is, but again, it's underground, right? The Warren's Gate is underground. And here you can see how densely constructed the Muslim quarter is, and everything here is incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah, it is no way of really digging from above. And that's it's just soil and some stones. That's it, because there was just a gate. And technically speaking, over there is a temple mount, but you cannot dig there. And there is also, if you walk a little bit past this Warren's Gate, you will find yourself in another section of the Western Wall. And I guess it's going to be the last thing we'll be talking about today. So you see, I don't want to hurry too much, and I don't want to spend enough time on all these important details. And there you go. So it's the prayer nook. We are at the area that is the closest to the temple. So this is not the synagogue, it's kind of the prayer nook. And whenever I was there, it was filled with people. It was people were praying, people were crying, people were sleeping, people were in their with their wheelchairs. By the way, the whole place is very wheelchair friendly, very accessible, incredible. Um, Unlike most of Jerusalem above. Yes. So these are the photos from the internet. I haven't. I tend not to take photos of people praying. So this is just from the internet. That's the closest we can get to where the temple used to be. That's it. And from here we keep on moving. It's called sort of the Northern Passage. because we are approaching, well, this is the northern wall, that's the southern wall over there, and this is quite a long passage. You basically walking and walking and walking and walking, but there's quite a lot to see as well on our way, and we are going to do that next time. So the Q&A, let me know if you have any questions. In the meantime, I will just would like to remind you that the next episode is already on my website, same time, June 8th, Sunday. I will be happy to take you on another tour. Yay to cheesecake. Yeah, I could do a cheesecake even now. I'm a little bit tired, but there's no cheesecake at the moment. So tomorrow, definitely, I'm treating myself to one. Um, well, obviously, it, it's content. Well, it's always contentious, right? Everything about Jerusalem is so tricky, and obviously, these tours are aimed at. And it's not for me to prove anything. It's not for me to try to prove that yes, the temple had been there. I mean, the archaeology speaks for itself. So you may have heard that. That's by the way the policy of the WAC, the well, the organization that is in charge of the Muslim religious sites in Jerusalem, and not only. So that's the claim that, well, there's some claims that there had never been in the temple, which is not the case. And here we're focusing on pure archaeology. That's all we need. And there's definitely going to be more archaeology, more findings made over the course of, I don't know how many years it's going to take. Um, well, it's endless, I believe. So Marilyn is sharing with us her experience in Jerusalem 20 years ago. I never saw any of this site that you showed us today. Yeah, because as I said, the excavations are ongoing and there are so many discoveries made on a daily basis. Do you know what year the synagogue closest to the Western Wall started being used? I don't know the exact year. Sorry, dear. I don't know, but it's easy to find. I just don't focus on the exact dates too much. It's more about the, let's say, periods. I don't know. It's maybe 10 years. I don't. Well, I could only be guessing, but I don't really know. But you can look it up, definitely. Gigantic stone. Yes, in 2019, that was possible. Yeah, it's been open for a decade or so, this gigantic stone. But I don't think that you definitely couldn't have passed through those showers because they were not open yet to public. It is the fastest hour of the day. It's all extraordinary. Thank you, Cindy. I'm so happy. I've been able to cheer you up a little bit and take your mind off everything. It's really nice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marilyn. Well, I will be going to Jerusalem for a few months and I will be doing so many tours. There are live streams and pre-recorded tours. So I'll be happy to take you there at least virtually. All you have to do is just to subscribe to my newsletter to be informed about everything. And well, even being far from Jerusalem, I'm still drawn to this so much. And this is, well, it's only natural because there's so many fantastic things. There's such a complex history, but that's what makes it so special. So yeah, how can one interested in history cannot be drawn to Jerusalem? Okay, Sharon, of course, of course. I'm happy to be able to provide those experiences to you. Thank you, Dorla. Yeah, quite diverse tours from Soviet communal apartments to Russian ballet seasons of Sergei Diaghilev and then Jerusalem. Who would have thought, right? What a diverse area of tours I've been doing over all these year and a half. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I would always appreciate your support. It could be a PayPal, you could buy me a coffee, and I will see you next weekend. Oh, and actually, also in midweek, June 5th, I will be soon scheduling the tour, a live stream from a beautiful nook in Georgia, a beautiful city, beautiful architecture, some history, some wine, and incredible nature. Thank you so much. Definitely, I'm definitely having the cheesecake tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, and bye bye. The recording will be shared within the next couple of days. I promise. Bye bye, everyone. Thanks so much. Shalom and Hag Shavuot Sameach. Have a great week, everyone.